Marriage to his late brother's widow revealed an incredible journey of unexpected love and transformation. Jack wiped the grease from his hands, the familiar scent of gasoline swirling in the air around him. His brother Ryan's absence loomed like a shadow in the cluttered garage, where each tool seemed to echo memories of shared laughter and late-night mechanical battles. After the accident, the town talked, and his world, once robust, felt like a fragile veneer about to crack. As he stared blankly at the half-finished engine before him, doubt gnawed at his thoughts. How was he supposed to care for Ryan's family now that he was gone? When Emily returned to town, whispers weaved through the diner like the steam rising from warm cups of coffee. A widow with 2 kids, the locals gawked at her like she was a ghost, an intruder in this world built on family names and traditions. Jack's heart drummed in uncertainty. She was graceful amidst the grief, yet the weight of her sorrow pressed down on both of them. The undeniable connection he felt tugged at him with each stolen glance, yet fear kept his lips sealed. What would people think? Was it too soon? Was he betraying Ryan's memory and pursuing something more? In the days that unfolded, as they navigated the maze of parenting together, a flicker of comfort sparked between them. Jack remembered the way their laughter intertwined over parenting mishaps one late evening after the kids were asleep. He felt the warmth of Emily's smile thawing the coldness that had gripped his heart since the loss. Yet the town's chatter wrapped around him, heavy like chains. This wasn't just about them. Could love truly bloom amid such pain? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Jack dared to lean into the burgeoning feelings, an old friend of Ryan's re-entered the picture, bearing stories that fortressed the town's suspicions. He revealed fractures in Ryan's life Jack had never fathomed. The lies, the betrayals. Emily's gaze turned hollow, and Jack found himself torn between his loyalty to his brother's legacy and the growing desire for Emily. The town's whispers turned sharper, slicing through the warmth he had found with her, leaving only the bitter taste of distrust. His breaths were short. He could feel the walls closing in. Memories of Ryan and their brotherhood clashed violently with the thoughts of what could be with Emily. Was he willing to embrace this love, risking the ruins of Ryan's memory? Could he defy tradition, flout his family's unspoken code? As he unscrewed a bolt, the muscle tension traveled through his arms. He was a mechanic fixing a broken car, but his heart felt irreparably mangled. The juxtaposition of duty and desire left him paralyzed. Caught in the remains of silence, Jack stared into the shadows of the garage, each flickering bulb a reminder of the life he'd built and the one slipping away. If he could only muster the courage to step forward, to redefine family and forge a connection unmarred by the sins of the past. Yet uncertainty clung to him, refusing to let go. What would the townsfolk say? Would love triumph, or would he disappear into the quiet echoes of their judgments? Just another casualty of their small-town whispers? Jack inhaled sharply, the scent of metal and oil filling his senses as he grappled with the weight of his choices. Days turned into a blur of chores and responsibilities, but his mind remained ensnared in that moment of revelation, the painful truths about Ryan's past. The garage, once a sanctuary, now felt like prison walls closing in. How could he love within such tangled remnants of deceit? Emily's laughter echoed gently in his memory, a stark contrast to the storm in his heart. He had seen the flicker of hope in her eyes during their late-night conversations. Yet, the newfound doubts had created a chasm between them. Could he genuinely be there for her, knowing the complexities of Ryan's life? Each step closer to Emily felt like a betrayal to a brother he had cherished. As dawn broke one morning, Jack found himself sitting at the diner, staring at the mug of black coffee in front of him. Tock tock! The sound of heavy footsteps pulled his attention, and he glanced up to see Greg, Ryan's old friend, swagger into the room. Jack's blood boiled instantly. Could nothing remain undisturbed? "Jack," Greg said, voice booming, "found anything new about your brother's secret life? Or is it all just the past?" His smile widened maliciously. Jack clenched his fists, but the heat in his heart was one of resolve, not rage. If this was going to be the way forward, he needed to confront these unwelcome truths head-on. "I don't think it's a joke, Greg." Jack's voice was steady. "Ryan was more than whatever you want to portray him as." How volatile it felt to stand up for his brother while questioning the very foundations of loyalty. Greg leaned closer across the table, the air charged. "Do you think Emily even knows what she's stepping into? How many lives he left broken?" This wasn't just a personal vendetta, it was a direct challenge to Jack's heart. Did he know Emily well enough to trust her? The whirlpool of memories flooded his mind, her kindness with the kids, the warmth in her voice, the way she looked at him when their hands accidentally brushed together. But with Greg's words echoing in his ears, Jack sensed that doubt would poison what could be the healing balm for both of them. The conversation had twisted. Jack needed clarity before he could take another step toward Emily. What was he really afraid to lose, the memory of Ryan or the future he might build with her? Closing his eyes, he envisioned a life filled with laughter and shared responsibilities. He saw children playing, the way Emily's eyes shone at simple joys. A partnership built not just on grief, but on collective healing. As the realization surged through him, Jack's pulse quickened. No longer could he be shackled to the gloom of his past. He had to fight against the whisper of betrayal and speak his truth to Emily, to face their connection, however precarious it might be. Emerging from the diner, he felt a simmering determination to confront Emily and share what weighed heavily on his heart. Yet part of him hesitated. Was it possible to untangle the web of Ryan's relationships and pave a new path forward? Jack's battered heart raced as he thought of Emily. What if she rejected the truth? What if she questioned him too? The stakes had never been higher. Now he understood. He either embraced the risk of vulnerability with her or remained trapped in the silence of doubt. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the town. With each stride, Jack felt the ground shift beneath him, a world of possibility opening up as he headed toward Emily's home. The moment of truth had come. His heart beat fiercely against the confines of his chest. Would she welcome him or push him away in fear and confusion? Before he reached her doorstep, he steadied himself, his resolve hardening. Just as he was about to knock, a thought struck him, a challenge he hadn't yet faced. What if the revelations about Ryan's past were only the beginning? Jack realized he had to not only confront his brother's legacy, but also discover what lay ahead for him and Emily. He raised his hand, hesitated, and then knocked, ready to embrace whatever awaited him on the other side. The door opened slowly and Emily stood there, her surprise morphing rapidly into concern. Jack's heart raced. The moment he had anticipated with such fervor now felt like a crossroad. He could sense her warmth, yet the chill of uncertainty hung heavy between them. "Jack?" she asked, her voice soft yet edged with confusion. "What are you doing here?" He took a breath, gathering the fragments of courage he had collected during the walkover. "Hey, Emily," he managed, forced to mask his anxiety with a smile. "Can I come in? I need to talk to you about something important." She stepped back, allowing him through the threshold, but Jack could almost feel the hesitation in her posture as he crossed into her space. The cozy familiarity he had once relished now felt laden with unspoken words. The room was as he remembered it, decorated with the colors of comfort. The small touches she had placed throughout felt like signs of care he had taken for granted. As he settled onto the couch, he could feel her gaze searching his face, looking for signs of what lay behind the veil of his composure. Silence stretched between them, thick and oppressive. Jack was acutely aware that every second that passed stacked the weight of expectation higher. "I've been thinking a lot about us and," he faltered, struggling to find the thread of conversation. "About Ryan." At the mention of his brother's name, Emily's expression shifted. Hurt flashed across her features, her memories of Ryan undoubtedly dancing through her mind. "You don't have to." "I do." The urgency in his voice broke through her protest. "I have to be honest about who he was, about what I've discovered. I can't keep pretending everything is okay. It isn't, and I don't want you to be blindsided by his past." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. They sat in a strained silence, the reality of Ryan's shadow casting a long path over their potential future. Jack felt the weight of her gaze, the flicker of doubt mingling with the warmth that had once made him feel so alive. "Ryan made some choices that hurt people," he finally said, forcing the truth out as though it were a physical object to be dissected. "And I don't know how to reconcile that with our relationship, with what I feel for you." The words hung there, thickening the space between them. Slowly he watched her expression shift from surprise to a contemplative frown. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Jack stopped again, grappling with how to express this tangled web of feeling. If he could find the right words, could it make this easier? "I have to be honest with you about everything. About him, about me, about us. I'm scared of what we could lose." He paused, gauging her reaction. "But I'm more afraid of what happens if we don't take this step." Emily blinked, her expression softening as understanding filled her eyes. "You're saying you want to start fresh despite everything?" "It's complicated, but yes, I want to be honest with you. I want to share what I've discovered, let you see Ryan for exactly who he was, and allow you to piece it together, but I also want to see if we can build something despite all of that." His heart raced with vulnerability, with the potential of her rejection lurking at every corner. Jack could see the hesitation dancing in her eyes, a reflection of the uncertainty that pulsed between them. She took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly. "But what if I can't handle it? What if his past changes how I see you?" "Then we face it together." The words were raw, bursting forth from a place of deep conviction. "Building something new means facing fears and doubts that might threaten to tear us apart, but I want to fight for you, Emily." Her voice was quiet as she processed this. Jack felt a spark of hope, but uncertainty clawed at his chest. What if fighting was not enough? As she stared into his eyes, he could see the gears turning behind her resolve. He discovered a hidden resilience in himself, the prospect of rebirth amidst remnants of despair. But just as he thought the connection was deepening, a shadow crossed her face that sent a shiver through him. Jack braced himself, prepared to delve deeper, to unearth every buried truth. But as she opened her mouth, he hesitated, realizing that perhaps the path ahead would not just shake the foundations of their relationship, but potentially reshape them in profound ways. "Can you handle what'll come next?" Emily finally asked, and Jack realized the moment had turned. Her question was a challenge, a reckoning that would demand every bit of his strength. As he weighed the implications of her words, Jack understood that their journey had only just begun, and the tumultuous landscape ahead loomed larger than he could have foreseen. Jack felt the weight of her question settle heavily on his chest, intensifying the already turbulent emotions swirling within him. The air thickened with tension as he prepared for an answer that could either bridge the chasm between them or plunge them into deeper confusion. I want to believe I can," he replied finally, his voice steadier than he felt. "But I need you to understand, this isn't just about Ryan. It's about confronting the fear that has shaped my whole life, the fear of being vulnerable, of allowing someone to see all of me." The admission flowed out like a river breaking through its dam, unsettling yet liberating. Emily's gaze never wavered, and Jack felt a flicker of admiration for her strength. Her presence was both grounding and intimidating, and he questioned whether he was equipped to navigate the storm he had invited by seeking clarity. This was uncharted territory for them both. "So you want me to unearth the past, understand it, and still choose you?" she asked, her brow furrowed as she considered the depths of what he was asking. The intensity of the moment pushed Jack to dig deeper. "No, I want you to see who I've become in the aftermath of it. I'm not just Ryan's brother. I'm a man who has wrestled with his identity, shaped by loss and regret. I've hidden behind the facade of a stable life, while beneath the surface, I've been grappling with what it means to love someone fully, to embrace both the light and the shadow together." As the words poured out, Jack realized how far removed he'd been from genuine connection, how he had been trapped in the cycle of fear and preservation. He watched as the gears in Emily's mind shifted. He knew they were tethered to their shared reality. "Wouldn't that just be inviting chaos into our lives?" she questioned, tilting her head. The flicker of vulnerability in her tone resonated within him. She understood the stakes just as he did. "Life is chaotic, Emily." The conviction in his voice surprised him. "We can't control everything. We can decide to face it. That choice is ours. Together we can face Ryan's legacy and still forge something beautiful. But it requires both of us to be all in. No more half-truths." The atmosphere crackled with an electric mix of desire, doubt, and burgeoning hope. Jack's heart raced at the thought of confronting the full scope of their situation. He didn't know if it would lead to ruin or redemption, but he was certain a decision had to be made. "And if I find that I can't do it? If I do walk away, what does that mean for you?" Emily's voice trembled slightly, laced with fear of the unknown. Her question hung like a heavy pendulum in the air, and Jack could feel the sharp edges of uncertainty pierce through them both. "Then I'll have to accept that too," he admitted, the words tasting bitter and yet oddly freeing. "It will hurt, but I would rather have you choose to leave than be shackled to a version of myself that denies what could have been." Emily's expression tightened as she chewed over his reply. He sensed a tumult within her, a mix of conflicting emotions. Fear, intrigue, a flicker of hope. This was their pivotal moment. The stakes were high. She could choose to embrace the unknown or retreat into comfort, a choice he made so many times before. Jack inhaled deeply, the air sharper, more invigorating. "I don't want to hold you back. I want to move forward, but we have to do it on our terms. And if that means facing the ghost of Ryan, then so be it." With that declaration, Jack realized that he was not merely fighting for her. He was battling his own fears, shedding the layers of past hesitations, and stepping into the light of possibility. The silence that followed felt charged, and neither of them spoke. Emily's gaze was unwavering, examining the depths of Jack's soul, and he could sense that a choice was imminent. Would she take the leap with him, or would the fear of the unknown hold her back? Just as the tension reached its apex, the sound of a phone vibrating sharply broke the stillness, shattering the moment into fragments of uncertainty. Both their heads jerked towards the source, and Jack felt a sudden rush of dread and curiosity ripple through him. What awaited them? A revelation that could change everything, or an intrusion that would complicate their fragile connection? Jack's stomach knotted as they both stared, their hearts racing in anticipation. Jack's heart raced as he reached for the phone, its incessant vibration echoing through the tense air like a warning bell. His hands trembled slightly as he glanced at the screen, the name flashing in stark clarity. It was Ryan's old friend Mark, a connection Jack hadn't anticipated. The last time they spoke was a mere month after Ryan's death, when Jack had been too overwhelmed with grief to participate in any conversations. A wave of anxiety washed over him. What could Mark want now? He hesitated for a moment, but ultimately hit accept. The tension shifted, transforming into a raw, electric anticipation. "Jack?" Mark's voice came through, gravelly and hesitant. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "Not at all," Jack replied, aware of the dullness in his tone as he glanced toward Emily, her worry palpable in the way she leaned forward, straining to listen. There was a pause on the other end, as if Mark struggled to find the right words. "I've been thinking about Ryan a lot lately, and I wanted to talk. I'm not sure if it's the right time." "Just say it," Jack urged, frustration mingling with dread. The moment with Emily felt like a fragile glass sculpture, and Mark's call was a threat to shatter it. "Okay, I think you should know that Ryan had some unfinished business. He talked about you, and more importantly, about Emily, before... Well, you know, he had plans to bring you both together to work through some things." Jack's stomach dropped. "What do you mean, unfinished business?" "There was something about a letter," Mark explained, his voice quaking slightly. "Ryan wrote to both of you, but he only gave it to me. He thought you two would need it, to understand what he was feeling. It has to do with how he saw your relationships, yours with him and Emily." Jack's breath caught in his throat. Could it be? Was Ryan trying to merge the fragments of their lives even in his absence? "And you have this letter?" "I do. I was supposed to give it to you both after things settled down, but I realize now that may be forever. It might help you both understand a lot more." The room began to spin as confusion and despair coalesced within Jack. Did he want to dive into this rabbit hole? Would it clarify everything or toss them further into chaos? He met Emily's eyes, and for a moment their fears entwined, a thread of shared dread weaving between them. "Jack?" Mark's voice broke through the haze. "Are you there?" "Yeah," he managed, the weight of the moment pressing down heavily. "I'm here. Can you send it to me?" "Of course, but Just be careful. It might stir emotions you aren't ready to face. Jack hung up, his thoughts racing, a maelstrom of implications swirling through his mind. What truths lay in Ryan's words? Would Emily want to read it? Why did he feel as though this letter could be either a lifeline or a noose? He turned back to Emily, whose brows were knitted in concern. "What was that about?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Ryan, there's something he left behind," Jack said, the gravity of the situation weighing on him. Emily's eyes widened as realization dawned. "A letter?" Jack nodded, feeling the urgency of the moment seep into his bones. They were standing on a precipice. A decision lay before them. "Do we want to know what he said?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The question hung in the air, heavy with risk and potential. Jack recognized that whatever lay within that letter could alter the course of their fragile relationship and the tenuous reconciliation of their past. He took a deep breath. This was no longer just about him or Emily, but entangled destinies. They could either unravel the past or find a way to weave it into their future. As Jack prepared to voice his thoughts, the doorbell rang, cutting through the intense atmosphere like a knife. An unexpected visitor, or perhaps a twist of fate. Jack could feel the tides of change approaching. Whatever happened next would define them both in ways they had yet to comprehend. Would they turn to face the storm together, or would they let the continued chaos push them apart? Jack approached the door with trepidation, every step echoing the turmoil in his mind. The ring of the bell had yanked him back from the brink of his repressed emotions. He felt a sudden urgency to confront whatever was about to unfold. He hesitated momentarily before swinging the door open. Standing on the porch was a figure he hadn't anticipated, a woman who exuded warmth and an almost eerie familiarity. It was Lisa, Ryan's sister. She hardly resembled the strong, fiery woman he recalled at the funeral. Time and grief had etched deep lines across her face. Her eyes, however, bore the same fire, flickering with unresolved pain. "Jack," she breathed, her voice barely breaking. "Lisa," he replied, his throat tight as he fought to keep his composure. "Can we talk?" She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, her presence enveloping the small living room. Jack nodded uncertainly, glancing at Emily, who stood at the edge of the room, uncertainty etched on her face. "Of course, we were just catching up." He motioned toward the couch, its cushions now feeling smaller and less inviting. They settled in, an awkward silence stretching between the three of them. Jack's heart raced as he sensed the tension. The letter weighed heavily in the back of his mind. It felt now like a shadow creeping into the room, reminding him of the pain nestled within. "I've had some time to process," Lisa began, her voice trembling as she shifted in her seat. "Ryan had plans, things he intended to do that he never finished, and I think that letter is part of it." Jack's breath caught again, emotions crashing against one another. "You know about the letter?" he questioned, his tone sharp, defensive against the raw vulnerability that was rising. "I do," Lisa nodded, her gaze drifting to the floor as if scrutinizing her own thoughts. "He told me about it, how he wanted to bring us all together. It was important to him. And I guess it's important to me, too." Emily's brow furrowed deeper with concern. "Is that why you're here? To discuss Ryan's unfinished business?" "That letter contains truths and feelings he was never able to articulate," Lisa continued, her voice firming. "He was scared of losing you, of losing us, even before anything happened." Jack felt a pang in his chest as her words sunk in. He had spent weeks contemplating if reading Ryan's last thoughts could help, but now he was being asked to wrestle with someone else's grief. He glanced at Emily, whose eyes were wide, absorbing every word. "What do we do?" she asked softly, almost fearfully. The answer hung in the air, suspended between them, but Jack felt the urgency growing within him. Maybe this was exactly what they needed, an opportunity to face the ghosts that lingered in their hearts. "We confront it, together." Lisa's eyes sparkled with a flicker of hope. "We all loved him in different ways. It makes sense for us to explore this together, but it may be painful." Jack knew the coming confrontation wouldn't just be about Ryan's words. It would require them to dig deep into their own unresolved feelings about love, loss, and their present entanglement. He glanced at Emily, whose expression now mirrored resolution, a shared determination brewing. "Let's read the letter," Emily said, her voice steadier than Jack felt inside. In that fleeting moment, Jack felt the grip of anxiety and fear loosening slightly. They were there for each other, not as shadows of the past but potential architects of a new beginning. But just as hope flickered alive, Jack remembered Mark's warning. Be careful. The truth they were about to uncover could either bind them closer together or tear them apart irrevocably. As they gathered around, the air thickened with unsaid words, and the unanticipated weight of the moment loomed heavier than ever. Jack took the first step forward. Would their journey into the unknown lead them to healing, or would it unveil fractures too deep to mend? And at that critical juncture, as he prepared to connect their pasts with their uncertain future, a foreboding question echoed in his mind. Could love truly survive the fallout from secrets better left buried? Jack's hand trembled slightly as he reached for the envelope that lay on the table. It felt heavy, laden with expectations and memories intertwined within Ryan's unspoken words. Sitting beside Lisa and Emily, both their gazes fixated on him, time felt suspended, taut with the anticipation of what lay beyond that seal. He ripped it open, his heart racing as if it could foresee the revelations waiting inside. As the paper unfolded, the faint scent of Ryan's cologne wafted toward him, pulling at lingering memories. He inhaled deeply, shaking away a growing wave of nostalgia. This wasn't just a letter. It was a bridge to a past he feared would unravel everything he had just started to rebuild. The first words hit like a jolt. To my beloved sister and my dearest friend. Jack's throat tightened as he fell into the rhythm of Ryan's voice, the words dancing on the cusp of clarity and confusion. Each sentence drew him further into the maze of grief that had consumed them all, yet also offered a flicker of understanding. As he read aloud, he could feel the shared energy shift in the room. The awkwardness faded as Lisa's tears glistened, and Emily shifted closer, emboldened by the weight of the moment. Ryan spoke of dreams and hopes, fears of being abandoned, and the love he still felt for them both, transcending even the veil of death. Jack paused, his voice faltering when Ryan detailed his belief in reconciliation, that life was best lived in connection, not only in joy but also through the pain and complexities of relationships. The raw honesty stripped layers off Jack and unveiled buried thoughts he had avoided, the jealousy, the guilt, the fear of loss. Why didn't he talk to us about these feelings? Jack asked, frustration intertwining with sorrow. Why hide it all in a letter? Lisa met his gaze with fierce determination. He wanted to do this face to face, but he was paralyzed by fear, just like each of us. Maybe he didn't think we could handle it. Maybe he wanted to protect us. But did he protect us, or did he just prolong our suffering? Jack challenged, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. This was no time for defensiveness. They were here to confront their truths. Emily reached over and squeezed Jack's hand, grounding him in the moment. We can't blame him for being human. We face our own fears every day. Jack's heart fell. How many times had he allowed himself to retreat into his own insecurities instead of confronting them, not just for himself, but for the people he loved? As he continued reading, it became apparent that Ryan's letter wasn't just a farewell. It was an invitation, a challenge to their hearts to embrace vulnerability as a strength. You are my light, it proclaimed, radiating warmth and urging them to act on their shared love rather than shy away. The final lines swept through Jack like a tempest. Ryan wanted them to seek happiness together, no matter how unconventional it might seem. Together, Jack echoed, the weight of the word reverberating through him. He glimpsed the potential for healing, for creating a new reality nestled within his current struggles. With newfound strength, he felt the winds of change beginning to blow, stirring something dormant within him, a yearning for growth, for discovery, for embracing the unexpected. But as the letter concluded, a chilling thought whispered in the recesses of his mind. If embracing this new vision meant letting go of the old, how could he be certain it wouldn't lead them all into greater chaos? With Emily and Lisa's unwavering eyes upon him, he understood the choice was his. The very act of confronting this legacy could either unite them or expose deeper fractures. Jack inhaled, raising his chin slightly. We need to figure out what this really means for us. It's not just about Ryan anymore. It's about who we are now. Together, they sat in that small living room, the uncharted territories of their emotional landscapes stretching out in front of them, each aware that they were standing at a precipice. But that depth of exploration brought questions that loomed larger than life. If they embraced this new connection, would they find solace or plunge into a whirlwind of unforeseen consequences? And as Jack prepared to lead the conversation forward, the truth lingered in the air. The journey they were about to embark on might just hold the answers they desperately sought, but it also threatened to shatter the very foundations they thought were settled. Jack took a steadying breath as he examined his friends' faces, each reflecting their own whirlwind of emotions: hope, fear, uncertainty. It was apparent that this monumental moment, triggered by Ryan's letter, was also a call to action. Though overwhelmed, a flicker of determination ignited within him. There was no escaping the truth that they had to confront. They were standing at a crossroads that demanded their full attention. "Let's talk about what he said," Jack proposed, his voice firm but quavering slightly. "Ryan believed we could navigate through everything together, and it's time we put that belief into practice." Lisa, still wiping her eyes, nodded slowly. "He wanted us to be honest. We owe that to him and to ourselves." The three of them formed a huddle, their body language shifting from that nervousness to a tentative solidarity. The tension in the room thickened, hanging in the air like impending rain. "What does it mean for us to really embrace our feelings?" Jack asked, his gray eyes searching Lisa and Emily's. "If we are going to do this, we cannot hold back." Emily leaned back slightly, contemplating. "It means confronting our guilt about Ryan, maybe even our fears about moving on. I've been so afraid of dishonoring him, of losing the pieces of our past." Jack's heart raced at her words. Her insecurities echoed his own and made the daunting task ahead feel a bit more tangible. "We have to be honest about those feelings too. That means standing on shaky ground and risking everything we've built. But," he hesitated, weighing the burden of truth against safety, "that's part of what Ryan wanted us to do. He wanted us to find connection, even from within our pain." A heaviness washed over Emily, but she maintained her resolve. "We need to give ourselves permission to grieve while also allowing room for new beginnings." The unspoken realization hung in the air. Could they really allow themselves to redefine their relationships? The choice felt monumental and fraught with uncertainty. Jack fought back the inner voice telling him to retreat into old habits. It was instinctive to wish for the familiar simplicity of avoidance, but he felt the sharp pull of responsibility for himself, for Emily, for Lisa, and for Ryan's memory. "Then let's explore what that looks like. Let's acknowledge our fears, but also embrace what we can build together." Their dialogue unfolded gradually, each revelation peeling back the layers of their defenses. Jack found courage he didn't know he possessed, recalling the very essence of Ryan's letter that urged him to reach deeper. Through the vulnerability that emerged, he began to see glimpses of his own identity forming, an identity forged less in isolation and more in connection. "Maybe we begin by sharing what we're afraid of," he suggested, finding inspiration in their growing bond. "Choose one fear and put it out in the open." "Okay," Lisa offered hesitantly. "I'm afraid of losing the parts of Ryan that are still alive in me and changing too much. What if I forget him in my pursuit of moving on?" Jack could hear the sincerity in her words, the vulnerability that exposed her heart. It resonated with him, stirring a sense of bravery inside. He had experienced loss, uncertainty, and the paralyzing fear of erasing Ryan's memory. What if we don't forget him? What if he is part of our growth, propelling us to be better versions of ourselves? As the dialogue flowed, the room felt charged with a mix of sorrow and exhilaration. Each unveiling brought them closer together, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Jack sensed the possibilities of forging a new path unfolding before them. Yet beneath the optimism, a new layer of doubt began to creep in. What if they ventured too far, too fast? Would the bond forged in grief and love withstand the test of time or splinter under the weight of their aspirational fragility? The discussion began to wind down, the shadows of unanswered questions gathering around them. Jack felt a surge of determination, spurred by the importance of their collective journey. "Let's commit to this exploration, every fear, every pain, as our tribute to Ryan." With a hesitant smile, they nodded in agreement, the uncharted territories of their emotional landscapes suddenly feeling a bit more navigable together. But as Jack prepared to lead them further, the chilling reminder of their limits loomed. Could they truly embrace all of this, knowing that the shadows of their past could override their best intentions? The moment felt suspended in time, an invitation to confront a reality that remained just out of reach. It was now or never. The deeper questions lay ready to unfold, shattering old perceptions and igniting new destinies. The next day, Jack felt a weight pressing on his chest as he walked into the coffee shop. The familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee usually offered him solace, but today it was a reminder of the emotional discussions that lingered from the previous evening. He was acutely aware of the unresolved questions that still haunted his mind, especially as he sat down at the small table where he had often shared laughter and news with Ryan. Lisa arrived first, her expression reflecting both vulnerability and strength. "I've been thinking," she said, sliding into the chair opposite Jack. "What if we start holding each other accountable? Like if we call out each other's fears and push each other to confront them head on?" Jack considered her words. The idea was both invigorating and terrifying. Accountability could help us, but it also means we have to be willing to handle the fallout of our honesty. What if we hurt each other? What if it drives us apart? Lisa met his gaze, unflinching. "I think we have to risk that. Keeping things bottled up is what got us here in the first place, isn't it?" Just as he opened his mouth to respond, Emily burst through the door, her eyes wide with determination. "I've decided to start writing again. It was a passion I abandoned, and I think it's time to rediscover that part of myself." Jack felt a flicker of excitement at Emily's revelation. "That's amazing. Writing could be a powerful way for you to express everything you're feeling, like a healing process." "Exactly," Emily said, her voice firm. "But I want to try something different this time. I'd like to write about us, about our journey since Ryan. That way, we can honor him while also allowing ourselves to navigate this new terrain together." Jack's stomach churned at the prospect. Their experiences were raw and complicated. Would it be cathartic or simply dredge up pain? "I think it's brave, but are you ready for the memories to bubble to the surface? It'll be hard." "I know," she replied, a soft resolve coating her words. "That's why I think we need to be there for each other. We can read our pieces aloud, support one another. It's terrifying, but could be what we need to let go." Jack found solace in her ambition. There was power in vulnerability, and perhaps this creative outlet could propel them forward. "Let's do it then. I'll write something too. I want to share my fears, my memories of Ryan, and everything else that needs addressing." As they spoke, each realization added weight to the air surrounding them. Ideas swirled, and they tossed around what they might write while grappling with a sudden, overwhelming wave of nostalgia. Jack's heart tightened as he thought of the warmth Ryan always brought into their lives. Could he pen that warmth into a narrative full of love and light, even as it teetered on the edge of grief? But deep underneath their burgeoning plans, a gnawing apprehension emerged. The more they committed to unearthing their feelings, the greater the risk of exposing those deep-seated insecurities that had lain dormant. Jack couldn't shake the thought. What if exploring their emotions fractured something unbreakable among them? Just then, Lisa's phone buzzed on the table, pulling them from their introspection. She glanced at the screen, her expression shifting abruptly from excitement to alarm. "It's Derek. He wants to meet." Jack's pulse quickened. Derek was Ryan's brother, the one who had distanced himself after losing Ryan to an accident. They had barely interacted since the funeral, each member of the trio having navigated their own version of grief alone. Now Derek's sudden outreach was a lighthouse in their fog, but was it a beacon of hope or a signal for trouble? "Do you think we should meet him?" Jack's voice trembled slightly. The answer was incredibly important. It could potentially change the course of their fragile healing journey. Lisa's brow furrowed. "I think we need to hear him out, but we should go together. It might be the moment we've been waiting for, or the worst idea we've ever had. I'm not sure yet which." Jack nodded, the tension thick and palpable. Their fears, hopes, and uncertainties mingled into one compelling quest for honesty. But beneath it all, a primal instinct wrestled for control, whispering that the path to resolution might just lead to new unseen challenges. As they prepared themselves for the meeting, Jack felt an overwhelming urge to confront the very things that terrified him. The shackles of grief were loosening. Could they withstand the storm of truth that awaited them? With a mixture of curiosity and dread, he realized that their journey into healing and self-discovery was only just beginning. Now they stood on the brink, ready to reshape not just their memories of Ryan, but their futures as well. What awaited them in the confrontation with Derek could illuminate deeper truths than they dared to imagine, or push them further into their own shadows. It was time to step into the unknown. The sun was setting, casting a warm amber glow over the town, as Jack, Emily, and Lisa gathered at the coffee shop for their meeting with Derek. There was an undercurrent of anxiety in the air, a thick cloud of apprehension intermingling with the scent of fresh coffee. Jack felt the familiar weight of memories pressing against his chest. The anticipation of facing Ryan's brother hung heavily in the atmosphere. Would Derek embrace this opportunity for dialogue and accountability, or would old wounds resurface in sharp and painful ways? The thought unnerved him, but beneath the concerns lay a palpable hint of hope. This meeting could finally pave the way for resolution. When Derek entered, his tall frame exuded an unmistakable tension. Jack observed the deep crease of worry etched on his brow. They hadn't exchanged words in what felt like years, but as Jack caught Derek's gaze, he was struck by the poignant reminder that they were bound by shared loss, connected by the weight of Ryan's absence. "Hey," Jack said softly, motioning for Derek to sit among them. "Thanks for coming." Derek sank into the chair, running a hand through his tousled hair. "Thanks for meeting me." His voice was strained. "I know things have been complicated since Ryan." The air buzzed with unspoken weight, but Jack sensed a flicker of understanding in Derek's eyes. This moment presented an opportunity for each of them to confront their pain, their regrets, and their intertwined destinies. "I wanted to talk about him." Derek's voice trembled, rawness seeping through. "I've held on to so much anger and confusion, it's been tearing me apart. I thought maybe we could face it together." Jack shared a glance with Emily and Lisa, their collective resolve bolstered by Derek's admission. "We felt that way too. We've been exploring Ryan's past, what he meant to each of us, and the reality of the choices he made." Emily chimed in, her voice strong. "We've been writing about it. It's been a cathartic experience, but we need to be open about our fears and how Ryan's legacy impacts us moving forward." Derek met her gaze, visibly moved. "You too? I didn't know how to approach this without feeling like I was crossing boundaries, but maybe we should talk about what he left behind." As they crafted their dialogue, the initial tension began to dissipate, replaced by a collective understanding of shared grief. Each person around the table bared their vulnerabilities, recounting stories of their relationship with Ryan, the good and the bad. "I remember the last time I saw him," Derek said, his eyes glazing with a glassy sheen as memories flooded back. "He seemed so burdened, but I wish I could have pushed harder to break through his attempts to hide his struggles." Lisa nodded, her empathy glimmering in her expression. "He carried a lot of weight for all of us, but sometimes it felt like he was lost before I could really reach him. We shouldn't let those regrets define our connection now." Jack felt a swell of solidarity, realizing they were finally tearing down the walls of isolation. They shared laughter tinged with bittersweet nostalgia, and as they navigated the complexities of Ryan's legacy, Jack felt the shadows of grief begin to lift. But even amidst the healing, unease lingered. Reflecting Derek's sentiments, Jack hesitated, uncertain if true reconciliation was possible. What if we don't end up finding the clarity we need? What if digging deeper only breeds more chaos? Derek met Jack's gaze with fierce intensity. What if it shows us we've always been connected? More than ever, we need to support one another. We can't navigate this alone. The words struck a chord, igniting a fire within Jack, coaxing him out from the fear that had shrouded his journey. He realized that the act of confronting the past, no matter how painful, was also a pathway towards growth and new beginnings. As they each grappled with dreams of rediscovery, Jack felt resolute. He had not only begun to shed the layers of fear that had anchored him, but was now actively embracing a future that felt both promising and unknown. "I want to honor Ryan's memory," Jack stated firmly, conviction threading through his voice. "Let's not disregard our growth. Let's unite our narratives, our stories. We can carry our past into a future filled with understanding." Determination surged through the group, a sense of shared commitment blossoming in that crowded coffee shop. Their narratives, once fraught with baggage, began to weave together in a tapestry marked not only by pain, but also by love. Jack felt weightless, free. The chains of his distrust fell away as his ability to confront uncertainty blossomed. This journey was no longer just about Ryan. It was about unearthing resilient truths that could help guide them forward. With every word exchanged, every layer stripped back, Jack understood that he wasn't merely piecing together a fragile foundation of grief, but nurturing a profound connection amidst the unfolding chaos. As they finished their coffee talks, laughter began to fill the space around them, an electric wave of newfound potential. Jack marveled at how they were becoming co-authors of their destinies. Each person took ownership of their wounds while also simultaneously embracing a common goal: to redefine love in the face of loss. Before they parted ways, Jack felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over him. Not only had they faced the depths of their fears, but they had begun to untangle the threads of connectivity that Ryan's absence once severed. As he walked out into the dusk, the remnants of doubt faded, the foundations of hope fortified. Jack understood that transforming loss into legacy required immense bravery, but as he looked at Derek, Emily, and Lisa, he recognized they were no longer alone in the endeavor. The beauty of connection, grounded in understanding and love, would sustain them through every challenge ahead. In that moment, it was clear. They were on the brink of an enduring renaissance. Each navigating the path of healing, they would emerge stronger, united by the unwavering truth that life could indeed bloom again amid heartbreak. This pivotal journey had ignited Jack's passion anew, propelling him toward a future where vulnerability was no longer an enemy, but an ally, guiding him toward overcoming the shadows of his past. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.